Imagine that today, through a glitch in nature or a miracle of science, death has become impossible for you. At first, it seems like humanity's ultimate dream. You have all the time in the world to learn every language, visit every country, and read every book. The pressure to achieve your dreams in a few short decades vanishes, and you feel that you have finally conquered your definitive patient autonomy over biology. But what I am going to reveal to you today is the cruel and inevitable script of how this gift turns into the worst torture ever conceived by the universe. The devastating truth is that your mind was forged by survival biochemistry to value what is scarce, and when time becomes infinite, the value of life disintegrates. What I am going to show you in the next few minutes is not cheap science fiction, but the physical and real timeline of what will remain of you 100 trillion years from now. You will discover how your window of opportunity to love and connect closes as you watch, helpless, as the last star in the universe goes out, leaving you alone in an abyss of eternal darkness. Prepare for a journey that begins with the euphoria of the first 50 years and ends in the absolute silence of the black hole era. I will expose the silent signals that immortality is not a blessing, but a sentence of total isolation, where the memory of those you loved will be lost on hard drives that time will turn to dust. If you still think that living forever is your greatest desire, this video will break that illusion and give you back the pleasure of being mortal. I ask you to leave your like and subscribe, for here we explore the truths that most prefer to ignore to maintain comfort. This channel is your refuge for understanding the essential nutrients of real existence. Comment below now, if you could choose, how many years would you like to live? I want to see who has the courage to face eternity head-on. In the first 50 years of immortality, you believe you have beaten the system. While the world around you races against the clock, you walk. You watch the arrival of 2026, see artificial intelligence merge with biology, and feel that your window of opportunity is infinite. But euphoria is a drug that loses its effect quickly. As you accumulate degrees and languages, the silent signals of tragedy begin to appear on the faces of the people you love. You notice the first wrinkle on your spouse, the first memory lapse in your parents, and you realize that while you are a static monument, they are sand slipping through your fingers. You are no longer living, you are just watching everyone else die. At 100 years old, your survival biochemistry short-circuits. Your brain, designed to last 8 decades, begins to overflow with memories that no longer have anywhere to anchor. Your childhood friends are now just photos in corrupted digital files, and your contact list is a cemetery of names that will never answer again. You become a living anachronism, a foreigner of time speaking slang from 2026 in a world that no longer recognizes your culture. Your immortal patient autonomy transforms into a clinical loneliness. You are the only human being who cannot share the universal experience of finitude. The pain of immortality is not physical, it is the exhaustion of repetition. At 150 years old, you have already seen 3 world wars caused by the same errors of ego and power you read about in history books. You try to warn them, try to use your millennial wisdom, but no one listens to a ghost. Humanity repeats cycles of 80 years because that is the limit of collective biological memory, but you are stuck in an infinite loop of déjà vu. The world becomes a theater where the plays are always the same, only the actors change, and you are the only spectator who is not allowed to leave the room when the lights go out. At 500 years old, the cultural shock is devastating. The language you speak is now considered archaic, and sociology treats your era as the digital dark age. You hold secrets of the universe that science is still trying to prove, but how do you prove you were there when the first quantum chip was turned on, if all the data from 2026 was lost in magnetic collapses? Your mind is a library whose shelves are burning. The knowledge that should be your greatest asset becomes your greatest burden, for there is no one in the world with whom you can have a genuine conversation about the past. The climate crisis, which in 2026 seemed like a distant problem, now dictates every second of your existence. You watch historical cities, New York, London, Rio de Janeiro, be wiped off the map by rising sea levels, and you realize that not even geography is immortal. You move from country to country, fleeing droughts and floods, carrying your essential nutrients in backpacks feeling in your skin that the Earth is an organism in aggressive mutation. Immortality gave you time, but time took away your ground, your home, and your identity. At this point, the idea of living forever no longer feels like a superpower, but rather the punishment of a sadistic god. You are the only consciousness that remembers the taste of a fruit that went extinct 3 centuries ago, or the sound of a laugh that the silence of time devoured. You are the oldest organism in history, but you feel like the most fragile, for there is nothing in the universe that can kill you, but there is also nothing that can connect you. And worst of all, the sun still shines, but you know that, on a cosmic scale, the lights in your house are about to be cut off. At 1,000 years old, your perception of time undergoes an irreversible mutation. What is a day to someone who has already lived millions of them? The Earth's rotation becomes background noise, and your survival biochemistry begins to fight a reality that biology never predicted: the lack of novelty. Technology has reached its peak, Mars has been colonized, and you are humanity's most valuable museum piece. But the Earth that gave you life is dying. You witness the reversal of the magnetic poles and the definitive loss of digital data from 2026. Everything you are now only exists inside your mind, a territory that begins to fragment under the weight of millennia of absolute boredom. At 50,000 years old, the planet enters a new ice age. The Earth's axis of rotation wobbles and ice advances over the ruins of the civilizations you once knew. While the last humans flee to colonies on Jupiter's moons, you decide to stay and watch the white silence. You are the only organism that remembers the heat of the greenhouse effect of 2026, but now you feel on your skin the cold of a planet preparing for its deep sleep. Your window of opportunity to live in a hospitable environment has closed forever. Now, your existence is a succession of deserts of ice and sterile rock. At 500 million years old, the sun's brightness has increased so much that photosynthesis becomes impossible. You walk across an Earth without plants, without renewable oxygen, a world of dust and rocks fried by solar luminosity. The silent signals that the end of biological life has arrived are omnipresent. The oceans begin to evaporate, and you are the last witness of the last sea on Earth drying up. The planet you were born on has become a worse version of Venus, and your immortality forces you to breathe an atmosphere of carbon dioxide while watching the continents merge into a single sterile supercontinent. At 1 billion years old, Earth is officially a dead rock. The sun is so hot that the atmosphere has completely evaporated into space. You are floating in a partial vacuum, on a surface of lava and stone, without water, without food, and without company. Your patient autonomy has transformed into the loneliness of a fallen god. You do not need essential nutrients to stay alive, but biological hunger and thirst continue to scream in a body that cannot turn itself off. You are the last living being born on Earth, and your home is now a cosmic furnace that erases any trace that humanity once existed. The ethical contrast here is brutal. You sought eternity to have time to do everything, but now you have all the time in the universe and nothing to do. You see the Andromeda galaxy approaching, filling the night sky, but there is no one to share the beauty of this collision with. You realize that life only had flavor because there was an expiration date. Without death, your journey is just an infinite record of loss and destruction. You saw your planet be fried by the sun, and now you realize that the sun itself has its days numbered. At 5 billion years old, the sun expands into a red giant and swallows the Earth. You feel the heat of a star inside your cells as the planet where you took your first step in 2026 is disintegrated. You are ejected into the vacuum of deep space, floating among the remains of a solar system that has ceased to exist. The void is no longer a concept, it is your only reality. And it is here, in the black silence between the stars, that the true scale of your error begins to reveal itself, for the universe is just beginning to turn out the lights. At 10 billion years old, the sun, that star that illuminated your afternoons in 2026, is now just a cold and silent white dwarf. The solar system practically no longer exists. The planets that were not swallowed were hurled into the frozen vacuum. You are floating in the darkness, and your survival biochemistry is now your greatest curse. Your senses still seek heat, light, and oxygen, but the universe has nothing more to offer. You decide to explore the galaxy, but realize that the window of opportunity to find other human beings closed eons ago. The colonies on Mars and Jupiter's moons turned to stardust long before you left Earth's orbit. At this point, time becomes a cruel illusion. 100 billion years pass as if they were a second in your fragmented memory. You witness the last process of star formation in the Milky Way, which has now merged with Andromeda to form a giant, dying galaxy. The sky, once a brilliant tapestry, grows increasingly dark. Neighboring galaxies are moving away so fast due to the expansion of spacetime that their light will never reach your eyes again. You are trapped in an island of darkness, losing your intellectual patient autonomy, for there is no more new information to process, only the echo of the void. At 100 trillion years old, the universe enters the black hole era. The last stars, the small red dwarfs you adopted as temporary homes, go out one by one. You reach the end of the age of lights. Now, the only objects that remain are stellar corpses and hungry black holes. The silent signals of life have completely disappeared. You are the only organism that still remembers what the color blue was or the warmth of a hug. Your consciousness is the only light in a radius of trillions of kilometers, a candle lit in an ocean of black oil that refuses to go out. The loneliness here is no longer social, it is existential and physical. You watch, over quintillions of years, as black holes slowly evaporate through Hawking radiation. Each flash of light from a dying black hole is an event that takes trillions of years to happen, and you are there to see them all. The lack of essential nutrients for sanity, such as interaction, sound, and change, transforms your mind into a labyrinth of shadows. You begin to wish that death were a virus you could catch, but your immortality is an unbreakable firewall that keeps you awake while the rest of creation sleeps forever. At 10 or 100 years, a Google of years, the last black hole disappears. The universe has reached its lowest energy state. There is no more heat, no more matter, only electrons and positrons wandering in a space so vast they will never meet. You float in absolute nothingness. Your immortality has turned you into the residue of a system that has already ended. You are the only point of high entropy in a cold and dead universe. The contrast between the young person who wanted to live it all in 2026 and the being now floating in the void is the final proof that life only makes sense when it has a final point. In this extreme future, your consciousness is the only thing preventing the universe from being purely nothing. But with nothing to observe, no one to talk to, and no world to inhabit, your immortality reveals itself as the purest form of horror. You realize, too late, that the secret of human happiness was not infinite time, but the urgency of loving and discovering while the light was still on. And now, in the eternal cold of the Big Freeze, you prepare for the pre-conclusion of this journey, where we will understand why your mortality is, in fact, the greatest gift you ever received. We have reached the end of the line, my friend. The journey we took through trillions of years proves a single truth. Eternity is not a gift, it is a sentence of absolute isolation. The young person who in 2026 dreamed of bypassing the system and living forever did not realize they were, in fact, trying to erase what makes human life a masterpiece: its finitude. You saw the sun devour the earth, saw the stars go out, and ended up floating in a lightless vacuum, proving that your survival biochemistry only has purpose when there is something to fight for. Your window of opportunity is not a million years from now. It is happening now, in the next 10 minutes of your life. Immortality robs each discovery of its flavor, turns love into a burden, and wisdom into a monologue without listeners. By accepting that you are mortal, you reclaim your patient autonomy over time, and stop being a passive spectator of the universe to become the protagonist of your own story. The value of a sunset, a hug, or a new piece of knowledge resides in the fact that you will not have infinite chances to experience them. If this reality check made you realize that time is the only asset you cannot recover, use that as fuel. Leave your like and subscribe, for here we do not sell the illusion of eternal life, but the urgency of real life. Share this video with those who live killing time, so they understand that time is what kills us, and that this is the best thing that could happen to us. Comment below now. I choose the now, so I know you have awakened from the hypnosis of procrastination. Do not wait for the universe to cool down to start providing the essential nutrients for your mind and your relationships. The beauty of your existence lies in the silent signals that you are aging, growing, and changing. Enjoy every beat of your heart while the stars still shine in the sky and the coffee is still hot on your table. Life is special precisely because it ends. I thank you for traveling the abyss with me. I will be here in the next video, peeling back another layer of reality so that you live with authority and presence. Keep questioning, keep living with urgency, and above all, honor your mortality. We will see you in the next dive for the truth. Until then, make every second count.